off unless it gets to a point where a civil war were to erupt, where, especially in Crimea, where people were, pro-Russian factions were start attacking other people that were, against the administration. Like I mentioned, the Russian, Russian ministry, people from the government there are saying that they're going to support anybody who's pro-Russia and make sure that the regime doesn't take any actions against them. So it's a really, the tensions are on high. There's no debating that. There's no sugarcoating that fact. But until something really happens, until it goes over the boiling point, then we're not going to see any military intervention from Russia, probably.
Right, John. So a very unstable situation here. And there's supposed to be elections in the Ukraine in May. Do
Correct.
you see that playing out? I mean, looking at the security on the ground now and the chaos, lots of leaders have come out saying, we don't know who represents the Ukraine. We don't have Ukraine. We don't have trust in the leaders, the Ukraine's appointment. I mean, are these going to be successful elections?
Well, the day before he was deposed, President Yanukovych decided to move the elections up to May, which seemed like it was going to be a legitimate choice until he left the country. He said today, he reiterated that I am the leader of this country. But, of course, Alexander Turchinov is there. They have a new prime minister, Arseniy Yatsenyuk. The old prime minister, who was one of his arch rivals, that's Yulia Tymoshenko, she was released from prison on the day where, back last weekend where things really got out of hand. She said that she's going to run for president in the May elections, and she's hoping to win and, help the Ukraine fight all the economic problems that's going on and really change the tide there.
Right. John, I want to touch on some of the core issues as to why this issue started. We mentioned, yes, the trade deal with the EU that was rejected, but also the vast wealth inequality in the Ukraine, the frustration with the administration, with people with the administration for not, providing for them. Like I mentioned, once Yanukovych left Ukraine and his palace was opened up, people could go view it, and they just saw, there was gold-plated toilets,
It's truly something from the past, almost, just gigantic, of almost like a monarch of some sorts. A lot of accusations have been hurled at Yanukovych about corruption, about political cronyism, and a lot of people were saying that he didn't want to enter into that agreement with the EU because he was going to have to face certain sanctions that wouldn't exactly align with his true purposes. So there is that, but the numbers don't lie about where Ukraine stands economically. Russia had signed an agreement with the Ukraine to donate a $15 billion, bailout package for the country, which has been frozen due to all the fighting that's going on. The country's desperately seeking foreign aid. The United States has said if anything happens, they would be willing to donate some money. They're also looking to get some from the International Monetary Fund. But they've said that they need $35 billion in assistance between the end of now and the end of next year, just to stay afloat. So they are in dire straits. That's the
right,
situation.
John. Definitely an economic worry here. I mean, in any country where there's chaos, there's always concerns over whether or not a country is going to be able to pay back their obligations. And I'm curious about whether the UN, how involved the UN is going to get, in this conflict. We've seen proposals from the IMF, who are actually going to be sending people on the ground investigating, what's the best course of action here. But usually in these types of situations, the United Nations debates this in the Security Council. But interesting here is the U.S. and Russia both have a seat on the Security Council, which means they both have a veto. So this type of discussion, I don't think anything would even make it through the United Nations, just because Russia will, of course, veto any action in the Ukraine. They don't want to use or lose the influence they have there. So do you see any, major reform coming out of the UN here?
There's a lot to play out, and honestly, I don't think the United Nations is going to get involved because a lot of the opposition parties that are currently in Ukraine are trying to work things out and get it all together to start, negotiating. But I think until something really bad happens, we're not going to see the United Nations getting involved.
Right. Thanks, John, and we'll keep you updated on the latest developments from the Ukraine. And when we come back, Hunter Sines joins us to take a look at income inequality in America. Stay tuned.
I think someone at my friend's school has this thing called autism. My friend's brother's son has autism. My neighbor's son has autism. My son has autism.
Autism is getting closer to home. Today, 1 in 88 children is diagnosed with autism. That's a 1,000% increase in the last 40 years. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Turning a 20-foot wall into a canvas takes vision. So will getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
We are different. Society should aspire to be more like us.
Be part of the first class. Get energized. Get outside.
Hold on, guys. It's gonna get bumpy.
And get moving. Experience the power of physical activity. Join the movement at ActionHeroAlliance.com.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Talking Points correspondent Hunter Steins to talk about income inequality here in America. Definitely a campaign issue throughout the years. Tell me, Hunter, what is President Obama focusing on in terms of addressing income inequality?
Yeah, well, Anna, right now he is focused on this minimum wage problem. He's trying to raise it. Looking at the mandate for that the federal government mandates right now, it's at $7.25 an hour that every state has to pay. Looking across the nation, $9.25 per hour is paid as a minimum wage in Washington state. That's the highest across the nation. Vermont stands at $8.73. You can get paid $8 an hour here in New York, and much of the South stands at $7.25.
Oh, that's fascinating. What is President Obama specifically doing? I know he mentioned it in his State of the Union address to address this income inequality. What can he do personally?
Yeah, well, it started in his State of the Union speech in 2013 last year when he tried to make the minimum wage $9 an hour. That failed. He didn't try to push it as hard as he was this year. He used his executive order to raise minimum wage for federal contracted workers to $10.10 an hour.
His 10-10 plan.
Exactly, the 10-10 plan. Now, what's important about that is that's only going to affect future contractors. It's not going to affect people that are already working for the federal government. That's a key component to this. He's wanting to expand this 10-10 plan throughout the nation. This would raise the index of to inflation, basically. Looking at a Gallup poll, 71% of Americans right now are in favor of the raise of minimum wage, and that includes over half of Republicans that were polled.
Interesting. And again, to expand that, he's going to have to go through Congress, and as we know, deadlock in Congress is, exorbitant nowadays. So, it'll be definitely an effort to get that through there. So, moving on to what opponents are saying about this, Hunter. Obviously, minimum wage, there are two sides to this issue. People who say it's a good thing, it'll help. Economists who are saying, yes, this will help reduce wealth disparity, but others are saying, no, it's going to have a bad effect on businesses and hiring practices. But can you give us a little bit of a breakdown? What are opponents saying against minimum wage?
Yeah, well, much of the backlash is coming from Republicans in Washington. They're basically saying that if you raise the minimum wage, employers are going to have to pay more to their employees, which is going to reduce the number of people that they're going to hire. One specific angle that has been taken place by one of the senators in Washington is they're worried about college graduates and trying to get jobs. And this hard economic time where jobs are hard to come by and we're trying to create job growth, this is going to become a problem to them, is raising this minimum wage.
Right, exactly. So, Hunter, moving to a more local level here in New York, wealth disparity here in New York is definitely a problem. Even here in Syracuse, it's definitely income disparity. It's extravagant between what we see at the university and, in inner city Syracuse. But can you give us a breakdown, looking more broadly at New York in general? What is New York State going about doing to remedy the problem of wealth disparity?
Yeah, well, one big idea is an ongoing debate giving each municipality in the state of New York their own freedom to set their minimum wage. People in favor of this, 83% of Democrats and 48% of Republicans are in favor of it, and they're basically saying that there is this cost of living that varies widely throughout the state. New York City, one of the most expensive places to live in the world, when compared to one of these rural, areas upstate, there's this huge gap in the cost of living. And so they're wanting to push for this extra, couple dollars an hour to get paid in order for that demand that to pay their bills every month. People against it is Governor Cuomo, who believes that it could create too much competition between each municipality. He's worried that people will start leaving one area to another area
We're
just
looking at mass
because of
movement,
higher
yeah.
pay.
Exactly. And, you know, we're talking when it comes to raising the minimum wage to living wages here. I mean, a lot of the debate has been that, you know, yes, it is a raise in the minimum wage, but this is just to almost a living wage, too. Some economists have called it a living wage because what a lot of minimum wage workers are making now barely allows them to pay the monthly bills, you know, let alone support a family. So, you know, from people you've been talking to, is raising, you know, the minimum wage by a couple of dollars, is that something that's going to substantially help these people?
It will substantially help the working class. I know local officials here and the two senators, Senator Gillibrand and Schumer from New York, are both focused on helping this middle class, improving it. You know, if it means bumping pay, it means bumping pay. But that's not what they're entirely focused on right now as we speak.
Excellent. Thank you, Hunter Sines.
No problem.
And next, Will Gerhard joins us after the break to tell us about a developing story here in central New York. We'll be right back.
There is no credit fairy.
How else will I get a better credit score?
Look, you keep your credit card balances low and only open a new card if you really need it.
No fairy?
There's no magic to improving your credit, but there's help, and it's free. Go to creditfairy.org.
Packers. Vikings. Packers. Vikings.
Vikings. Red state. Blue state. Vegan.
Carnivore.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown.
Night owl.
Early bird.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But when we live united, we create real, lasting change in the building blocks of life. The education, income, and health of our communities, our families,
United.
Even the person next to us.
Live united.
Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up at liveunited.org.
Know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these two. It's Flirt City over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I think she's getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Welcome back. Joining me now is Talking Points correspondent Will Gerhard, and he's going to be giving us a preview of his segment on homelessness here in Syracuse. Definitely an issue that's been happening for the last 5 years and worsening, especially in this very brutal winter weather. It's tough on the homeless. So can you give us kind of the state of homelessness here in Syracuse?
And just, all you have to do is take a look at these numbers. The past year in Cayuga County, homelessness has increased by 44%. Wow. That's 475 people to approximately 685. Coming over here in Onondaga County, 850 people. On any given night in Onondaga County, 440 of them are in a shelter. The rest, hotels, temporary living, housing from places such as the rescue mission, and the rest of them are doing what is called hardcore homelessness, which is